You believe you choose. You believe the action was yours because your thumb moved, your card scanned, your mouth said yes. You assume intention because you were present at the scene of the decision. That belief keeps you calm. It also keeps you predictable. What you experience every day is not an open field of options. It is an arranged hallway with a lighted exit. It feels like permission. It functions like control. It looks harmless because it does not shout. It whispers. It presents a default. The default is not a suggestion. It is an anchor. The person who sets it does not need to argue with you. They do not need your excitement. They only need your fatigue. They win by making their preferred outcome the path of least resistance. No force, no threats. Just inertia that looks like consent. You encounter this in small ways that you mentally file as nothing. The preselected box that signs you up for emails. The free trial that renews unless you cancel. The tip screen that opens at 20%. The calendar invite that assumes your time. The platform that sets your feed to what it calls relevant instead of chronological. The cookie banner that makes accept easy and manage hard. You do not remember agreeing. You remember clicking continue. That is the point. Behavioral research has tracked this effect for decades. People feel an irrational attachment to the current setting, even when a change would benefit them. Economists call it status quo bias. Psychologists tie it to loss aversion. Your brain encodes losses more sharply than equivalent gains. The prefrontal cortex calculates the effort cost of changing something. The anterior cingulate flags conflict and friction. The striatum rewards habit completion. Taken together, the system prefers not to disturb what is already in place. The default lives at the intersection of those tendencies. It exploits what is built in. This is not a new trick. Durable power has always been institutional before it is theatrical. Machiavelli understood that the order of things matters more than the speech about things. The prince who shapes the conditions of daily life does not need to enforce his will with constant punishments. Michel Foucault described a similar truth. Power that works through norms and routines does not need to be visible to be effective. When the structure tells you what normal looks like, you move toward it without thinking you have been moved. You can see the scale of this in hard numbers. In countries where organ donation is opt-out by default, participation is near universal. In countries where it is opt-in, participation collapses. Same people, same morals, different default. The result looks like a mass change in ethics. It is not. It is a mass response to the friction of a checkbox. That same principle is in your phone. Suggested replies that finish your sentences. Autoplay that continues the episode. Notifications that define what is urgent for you. The device presents a script. You find yourself performing it. Not because you are weak, because the cost of resisting every small nudge is cumulative. Decision fatigue is a biological reality. Glucose drops, working memory narrows. The mind slips into energy-saving modes. System 1, to use Kahneman's terms, takes the wheel. The default thrives in that state. Here is the uncomfortable piece. You tell yourself you are independent because you reserve the right to say no to obvious pressure. You resist loud commands. You reject crude manipulation. You congratulate yourself for that. Meanwhile, you let the quiet structure decide what happens when you are not paying attention. You outsource 1,000 small choices and insist your life is self-directed. It is not. It is preloaded. There are only two positions in this game. Either you accept the environment that someone else set, or you set the baselines before you enter the environment. One is passive. One is active. There is no neutral ground. If you are not defining what is default for you, someone else is. Notice how this plays out socially. The group chat expects instant engagement because read receipts are on by default. You comply without discussion. Your colleague schedules over your time because your calendar is left open by default. You accept the meeting, then resent the intrusion. Algorithms surface outrage by default. You absorb it, then argue about the culture. The default sets the tempo. You dance to it, then call it your taste. This is how control prefers to live, not in orders, in options that already contain their own conclusion. Options that make dissent feel like extra work. That is the quiet skill of every competent operator. Frame the situation so that defection looks like the complication. Then act surprised when people say yes. If that sounds cynical, consider the counterpoint. The default is not always your enemy. Sometimes it is a benevolent guardrail. Automatic savings that build wealth without strain. Privacy settings that limit exposure unless you choose otherwise. Reminders that keep you consistent when motivation dips. The same mechanism that can be used to harvest your attention can be used to protect it. The difference is who set it and why. This is why the claim sounds counterintuitive. Freedom is not maximized through constant spontaneity. Freedom increases when the right defaults are in place before impulse arrives. The Stoics understood the gap between impression and assent. Epictetus taught that an impression presents itself automatically. Your choice is whether to sign your name to it. The default tries to sign for you. Stoic discipline is not about stone faces or denial. It is about building the reflex that says wait. It is about recognizing that the first option is often someone else's plan. There is a reason this knowledge is not common. It is not a conspiracy. It is an economy. Most systems are optimized for engagement, not autonomy. Your friction is their cost. Your attention is their inventory. Your compliance is their metric. If you begin to insist on your own baselines, their numbers drop. So the design stays friendly, efficient, and one step ahead of your intention. It keeps you satisfied enough to continue, not so dissatisfied that you revolt. You can feel the edge of this when you try to change a default that has lived in your life for a while. The first minutes are easy, the next hour aches. Your brain interprets deviation as a small threat. The amygdala spikes. The body resists. Not because the new choice is worse, because it is unfamiliar. People mislabel that sensation as intuition. They tell themselves a story about how the old way felt right. It did not. It felt known. There is a difference. There are people who lean into that difference. You know them because you feel a pull around them. They are calm inside chaos because they do not let the environment set their tempo. They are generous with attention because they do not allow alerts to hijack their mind. They are not fragile because their sense of self does not depend on constant feedback. They move with intention because their defaults were chosen, not inherited. They are not superhuman. They are structured. Contrast them with a person who treats every alert like a command, every invitation like an obligation, every offer like a test. That person tries to manage life at the level of reaction. They burn out because the world does not stop pushing. They interpret exhaustion as proof that they are giving their all. In reality, they are surrendering by degrees. History rewards the first type. Leaders who endure almost always take control of the setup. Frederick Taylor tried to do it to workers through routine. Military commanders have done it through doctrine and drills. Founders do it through cultural norms that outlast them. They standardize what others wake up to. When the setup is yours, you are in the room when others make choices you will never see. That is real influence. It does not need your presence to persist. Pay attention to language. A request that begins with it will only take a second tries to bypass evaluation by minimizing cost. A contract that says standard terms applies leverages your bias to assume fairness when words feel familiar. A colleague who uses we instead of you invites you to accept their frame as shared interest. None of this is new. It simply works better now because your time and attention are exposed to more inputs than at any point in history. Neuroscience gives the mechanism a clean outline. The brain is a prediction machine. It prefers routines that reduce surprise. When the environment repeatedly pairs a cue with an action that relieves effort, dopamine seals that loop. Suggested reply, tap, relief. Repeat. The basal ganglia store the sequence. Soon the action runs by itself. Now a stranger is shaping how you speak without ever telling you what to say. You feel efficient. They got what they wanted. Everyone is polite. You never saw the trade. If you recognize yourself in this, good. Recognition is the insult the ego needs to improve. Denial keeps you obedient. The posture that works is not anger at the world. Anger makes you loud and clumsy. The posture is quiet refusal to let someone else decide what is normal for you. Say less, change more. You do not need heroics, you need baselines. Private policies that outlast mood. Decide what you do not negotiate. Decide how your attention is allocated. Decide what your minimum and maximum are for money, sleep, exercise, inputs, and responses. Put those decisions in front of the prompts that will try to make them for you. Call it discipline if you want. It is really preemption. Notice the effect when you do this. Options that once felt tempting look transparent. Pressure that once felt heavy gets lighter. People who rely on soft control become confused. Not because you confront them, because you do not supply the easy yes their system assumes. Your silence becomes leverage. Your slowness becomes a filter. You become hard to move unless it benefits you. There is a shadow side to this competence. If you are not careful, you become rigid. You mistake stubbornness for strength. You miss opportunities because they arrive through a channel you usually ignore. That is the trap on the other side of passivity. The correction is simple. Do not worship your defaults. Use them, review them. Replace them when they stop serving your values. Autonomy is not a statue. It is a living policy. People will not applaud this. They will say you are difficult. They will say you are selfish. Fine. Labels are cheap. Outcomes are the currency. If your life is cleaner, your decisions are lighter, and your results are compounding, stay the course. The people worth keeping will adjust. The ones who depended on your frictionless compliance will drift. Let them. Here is what sits under all of this. You have a finite number of deliberate choices in a day. You cannot outrun that limit with slogans. If you allow the environment to spend those choices for you, do not pretend you are free. Freedom is not a feeling. It is the pattern of your defaults. If they are yours, you are free. If they are not, you are manageable. This is not a crusade. It is a filter. The majority will hear this and nod, then go back to living on autopilot. They will tell themselves they are too busy to change anything. They will keep mistaking motion for intention. They will keep paying the tax. A smaller group will feel a different response. Not excitement, clarity. Something clicks. They will see how a few quiet baselines will clear away noise. They will see how much of their stress is manufactured by friendly design. They will feel a clean kind of anger, not at others, at their own neglect. They will correct it without an audience. If that is you, act like it. Protect your attention like it is finite. Decide your standards when you are calm. Refuse to let software tell you what is urgent. Decline the meeting that was casually scheduled into your life. Answer on your time. Invest in wisdom over novelty. Speak less in rooms that run on impulse. Move more in ways that compound your control. None of this is theater. It is a quiet life built by design. You do not need permission to do this. You need a spine and a memory. Remember what you are for. Remember that any system you do not design will design you. Remember that a default is not a neutral setting. It is a bet about your behavior. Stop paying out on bets that insult your potential. Most will never touch this. Their ceilings are set by other people's preferences. Let them be comfortable. That is their path. You are not here for comfort. You are here to become someone who cannot be moved by trivial things. Someone who is hard to distract, hard to guilt, hard to rush, and easy to trust. You are being handled daily. Now you have the lens to see it. Use it, or stay where you are and call it fate. If you are ready to join the minority that sets its own baselines, stay close. What comes next is not for everyone. It is for people who want to stop living by someone else's settings and start living by their own.